Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9, and tonight I'm going to be talking about a movie called Dark Harvest. It was made in 1990 and it was directed by a guy named James Nicholson. Now, this is a new release from Intervision DVD. I'm a big fan of Intervision. I love the VHS aesthetic that they roll with. I love their logo at the beginning of their discs. Before the main menu even comes up, that cool Intervision logo with the star. It just looks like it comes from a really well-worn old videotape from the 80s, and I just love that because it really fills you with nostalgia before you even get to the fucking menu screen. So anyway, here's the cover of the DVD release. This DVD just came out a few weeks ago, actually, and this release comes with a bonus feature film, which is called Escapes. And we'll touch upon that movie a little bit after we talk about Dark Harvest. Escapes is an anthology film, so it's got different little short stories in it. And, you know, it's hit and miss, and we'll get to that one, but the main crux of this video is going to be about Dark Harvest. Let's dive right in, and I'll tell you guys what it's all about. This shot-on-video sleaze fest really starts off with a bang. You get this whiny, bickering couple lost out in the desert somewhere. They pull over next to some burned-out structure so they can figure out what the hell they're supposed to do next. There's nothing weird about the area, if you disregard the damn scarecrow hanging over there, of course. Right away, you'll notice this chick has a dumb Pulp Fiction haircut and a big duck-quacking mouth. I bet those lips could fix a flat tire in the span of 8 seconds and still have time to give you a rim job by the side of the fucking road. A rim job is where someone eats your ass. The boyfriend thinks he's a real tough guy and he goes out to investigate when they notice that the fucking scarecrow has disappeared from the cross it was hanging on. The girl is scared as hell and wants to leave, but the boyfriend wants to figure out where that damn scarecrow went. He thinks that someone is fucking with him. Yeah, genius, a killer scarecrow is fucking with you. He discovers a silly-looking dead body with the flesh ripped off its face. Then in a panic, he goes to leave and runs right into the evil scarecrow. It's a straw hat-wearing, rubber-faced motherfucker, and he bites right into the guy's throat, killing him. Then he picks up a big wooden stick and stabs the screaming bitch in her back over and over again. This is just the pre-credit sequence, so you can't say that the filmmakers weren't trying to make a grand declaration of intent. Some intro scenes try to take their time, but this one is about as subtle as a sledgehammer blow right to the fucking cranium, if you get my drift. But is the rest of the movie this action-packed? Well, let's find out. Next, we meet a group of dumbasses in a van. They're out in the desert also. What's with the desert infatuation anyway? It's hot and dry and filled with rattlesnakes and scorpions. Fuck the desert. Anyway, these people are out there for a so-called 7-day nature hike. I'd take a nature hike, all right up her ass. A mechanic at a rest stop warns them not to take Junction 59. Do you think they listen? Fuck no. What a shitty van. Of course, it ends up breaking down 8 hours away from their goddamn campsite, so they'll have to walk the rest of the way on foot. They stumble upon a house and start drinking whiskey and having sex. Then they hike some more, and as night falls, they realize they're hopelessly lost. They tell stories about how the land is cursed and run into various wrong-turn-looking bastards. But all of this is filler, like egg rolls and rice, because there are no more scarecrow attacks until the last part of the film. A guy gets pitchforked in the back about an hour in, and then a bigger attack after that on the whole camp. And there's not just one, but a bunch of evil scarecrows, and they attack like rampaging zombies all at once, slaughtering a bunch of these hiking douchebags. One chick gets crucified and left in a grotesque display with a bloody sickle perched above her head, and one of her eyes ripped completely out of her skull. Only a few campers are left at this point, and it'll take everything that they've got to try to defeat these murderous lumps of straw. I've probably made this movie seem more entertaining than it actually is. The truth is, the movie does start off like gangbusters, and the final 20 minutes or so are certainly watchable enough, but the whole entire midsection is just crammed with a bunch of useless padding and bullshit, and I found my attention span wandering off several times. You know, I would start staring at my cup of coffee. I would stop, like, paying attention to the goddamn movie. And you know, this is a typical phenomena in the SOV universe. A lot of these SOV movies, you know, they have some really cool sleaze and some, you know, cheap gore that kind of gives you a short little thrill, but they're stuffed with a lot of padding, and a lot of these movies are, and that's just the nature of the beast. But this movie, for a one-time watch, it isn't bad. I'm glad I watched it. And if you're an Intervision collector, if you're a fan of the label, you'll certainly want it on your shelf with the rest of your Intervision DVDs. So you definitely got to pick it up in that regard. But let's get to some of the finer points of the movie now that we've discussed the plot. If you're looking for some nice scenes of nudity, then this movie does deliver in that regard. There is a blonde bombshell in this film, and she's played by an actress named Patti Negri. Now, this chick has huge voluptuous tits. I'm talking big, hanging milk udders, and she leaves them all out there to bear. Now, do we get to see them a lot? No, unfortunately we don't. This isn't like Mausoleum with Bobby Brzee, where, you know, she's got her tits out a lot in that movie. Unfortunately, we don't get to see this woman's beautiful bosom as much as we should. We only get to see it in one scene when she's having sex with her boyfriend in this old abandoned house. But man, it's a great scene. That girl's got some nice boobs on her. Also, two other girls show some tits in this flick. So overall, I give this movie a solid B+ in the nudity department. No doubt about it. Now, as far as the score is concerned, this movie has a very, it's an interesting and varied music score. You gotta give credit to the composer on this movie because it keeps you entertained. It's very interesting. The music in the introduction, during the credits, and during the end credits is a very southern style banjo picking, down home folksy kind of thing. You know, it's got that country bluegrass vibe. But there's this very interesting musical piece that plays during certain driving scenes before the van breaks down, and it has this very odd combination of Asian style instrumentation mixed with that hayseed, down home banjo picking countrified shit, and the two collide. It's like, at times it reminded me of like the score for a Karate Kid movie mixed with the opening theme of Roseanne. You know, that bluesy country sounded thing at the beginning of the Roseanne television show. Well, it's like that. So very weird and interesting score, and that's cool because it's nice to hear something that's a little bit original in the music department. Not just, at least you can tell the composer put some effort forth and he wasn't just twiddling his thumbs and fucking, you know, just saying, hey, fuck you, pay me. At least he tried. The movie makes good use of what they had as far as the setting goes. They're out there shooting in the authentic desert, so you gotta give them credit for that. I mean, I wouldn't want to be out in the middle of the fucking desert. Like I said earlier, it's filled with fucking snakes and scorpions and tarantulas. Fuck that. No, you're not getting me out in the goddamn desert. But I'll tell you what, I love watching it in movies. I mean, you know, there's been some cool horror flicks set in the desert. Now, is this movie a cool movie? I wouldn't go that far, but it's a decent little time waster. I gotta say, at the 16-minute mark in this movie, there is quite a majestic shot of the desert landscape that they're working with there. And, you know, it's isolating. Anytime you got a group of characters in a horror flick and you put them out in the woods, you put them out stranded on a fucking island, or you put them out in the desert, wherever it is, in the middle of a blizzard, whatever. The whole point is getting your core cast of characters isolated so that they can be picked off one by one. And this movie, at least, you know, it sets that up and does an adequate job with that. So, now, this movie is certainly no Hills Have Eyes, but it's something more along the lines of something like, say, Blood Frenzy, which is another micro-budgeted horror flick set out in the desert. Now, Blood Frenzy I like a little bit better because it's a pure slasher film. It's not great or nothing, but I like the slasher thing a lot better than evil scarecrows. You know, the only movie that I feel like has really truly gotten the horror of scarecrows just right is the movie Scarecrows, but that's for another time. We'll talk about that movie some other time. The special makeup effects are of the dime store variety. You know, there's stuff that you'd see at a haunted hayride put on at your local fucking town somewhere out in the sticks. But watching the special features on this disc, I did learn that everyone on the goddamn crew contributed to trying to make the masks and effects and stuff in this movie. So it was a group effort. There wasn't one special person that was like a technician or like an expert at effects. This was everyone working and pulling together. So you gotta give them a little credit where credit's due in that regard. They did try their best, but the effects are certainly nothing impressive at all. But they are funny. The masks on the scarecrows did make me laugh a few times, especially towards the end. There's a scarecrow in a car that has a wise guy fucking quip to one of the guys that's trying to escape. This scarecrow's sitting in the car and asks him if he needs a lift or some shit like that. And I thought that was pretty funny because for the most part, these scarecrows don't talk. You'll hear them like making growling noises and shit like that. But this one had a funny line, so yeah, it was amusing. I like the interviews on this disc with Patti Negri and Dan Weiss. They both look back fondly on the film and really offer some insight into the background of the movie in a real jovial way. So that was cool to listen to them, and I learned things like Dan Weiss said that they didn't even pay them for working on this movie. The way that they were supposed to be paid for working on this film was by getting a copy of the movie once it was finished and distributed. But he said he never did get a copy. He literally had to go on eBay in the year 2000 and buy himself a copy of the fucking movie. So that was kind of interesting, learning something like that. I like that. Patti Negri, she's some kind of fucking psychic now, and it shows her around where she works, and she's got like crystal balls and Ouija boards and shit like that, so that was kind of funny. And yeah, I really liked those interviews with those two. They seem like nice people, and that's nice extras to have. Now, on to the bonus feature film, Escapes. Like I said, Escapes is an anthology flick, and I was really happy to see this included on the disc because it's a very interesting curiosity piece, and I actually just watched it for the first time about a year ago. So it was very interesting timing that it ended up being on this new release here. An interesting fact about the movie, Vincent Price is in this flick, in the wraparound segment, and he was paid $10,000 for his work on this movie, and they shot all of his scenes in one day. Now, there's different tales in here, obviously. The two standout stories in this little fucking thing are A Little Fishy and Coffee Break. A Little Fishy is about this dude that goes out, he's a fisherman, and he's out fishing and whatnot, and then an apple comes up on the ground. Now this dirty motherfucker, who would pick up a dirty apple off the ground and take a bite out of it? I certainly wouldn't. I mean, who knows what kind of fucking diseases are on that goddamn apple? But he picks that fucking apple up and takes a bite out, and next thing you know, you realize this guy has been hooked. He's got a fishing hook down his throat and something inside the water is pulling him in. So the roles have been reversed. So it's a short little novelty gag thing, you know, and it's entertaining. And they actually used to show this little piece. It's only 5 minutes long. They used to show it in between movies and stuff on stations like USA or Sci-Fi Channel. Back a long time ago, they would use shit like this as bumpers in between movies. Another one, like I said, that's a standout is the one called Coffee Break. And in Coffee Break, there's this delivery guy. He's this young buck kid full of piss and vinegar, and he gets lost in this little town called Harmony. This place is like the fucking Twilight Zone. No matter what he does, no matter how many different forks in the road he takes, he cannot get out of this town. And he keeps asking this old guy for directions. And this old guy keeps saying, "Hey there, you gotta slow down, have a nice nice cup of coffee, take it slow, relax, and just doing it, and it becomes increasingly and increasingly more creepy. I like stuff like this that gets under your skin, where, like I said, it's like a Twilight Zone type effect, where it's just a total mind-melding experience when someone can't figure out where the hell they're at and how they can get out of a predicament, but it's like a supernatural type thing. Because like I said, he cannot get out of this town. And so I really like this one, Coffee Break. So yeah, overall, this is a release I would recommend picking up. Is Dark Harvest a good movie? No, it's not a good movie. But is it watchable? And is it a fun movie maybe to watch with a couple friends sometime while you're having a beer? Sure. So I'd recommend it in that regard. And Escapes is an interesting thing. I mean, because it's a piece of history, you know, this is something, it's not your normal anthology film. So I do like Escapes in that regard because it's a real oddity. If you get a chance and you're an Intervision collector, definitely add this one to your collection because it's, you know, it's got some neat stuff on it, and the interviews on it are fun, too. They're fun and right to the point. Yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this little video review, please click like, leave me a comment, and if you're new to Mountaintop 9, please click subscribe, because not only do I continuously offer video reviews, but always remember to check out the horror movie douchebag stuff, because even if you haven't seen a movie that I do under the horror movie douchebag banner, still watch the review, because I always do funny, weird shit in those reviews. I always try to do like funny wraparound stuff and different things to make it a big, funny production. So I really appreciate you guys watching my videos, and I'll see you again next time.